Good evening. You're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Natasha Jog. Over the next half an hour, bodies of 2 Indian soldiers mutilated. Pakistan provokes. How will India respond? That's what we are looking at over the next half an hour. Let's go across to the big story, which is, of course, 2 Jawans killed and mutilated in Kashmir by Pakistan this morning. The army has warned of appropriate response for what it's described as a despicable act. It's also retaliated, we're told, with heavy mortar fire immediately. Such acts are unheard of even at a time of war. That was Defence Minister Arun Jaitley just a short while back. The soldiers who were killed, an army Jawan and a constable of the Border Security Force. They were part of a team on patrol between 2 forward posts in the Krishna Ghati sector along the line of control when Pakistan fired rockets and mortar bombs. Sources said that the Pakistani soldiers crossed the line of control, which serves as the de facto border, but did not breach the wire fence that India uses as a boundary. As India vowed revenge for the mutilation of its 2 soldiers killed in that firing, the Pakistan army put out a denial calling India's allegation false. The Inter-Services Public Relations said in a statement, the Pakistan army is a highly professional force and shall never disrespect a soldier, even Indian. Well, let me introduce my panel to you right away. I'm joined by General J.J. Singh. He's the former Chief of Army Staff. K.C. Singh, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, with us, as is G.V.L. Narasimha Rao, BJP spokesperson. We're also going to be joined by Ajoy Kumar of the Congress in just a bit. Thank you all, gentlemen, for being a part of the program today. General J.J. Singh, let me start by asking you. We've heard, and understandably so, a lot of anger, mood, of course, in the country now, also very similar, talking about an appropriate response. We've seen our political establishments say that this kind of sacrifices won't go in vain. But what can India's response really be? Because our hands are tied to a certain extent, aren't they, sir?
Natasha, firstly, India is a very responsible emerging power. We will not act in any way that will lower our status or stature or image in the Committee of Nations in the world. Yes, first and foremost, I would say that the military response to this provocation should be very hard-hitting, robust and iron-fisted. Like we have a limit to what we can tolerate, this is certainly something which cannot go on. And like we hit them hard when the surgical strike was executed, we have options available which I'm sure our army and the Air Force may look at, and we should be looking at teaching Pakistan a lesson.
So you're also of the opinion that while we act responsibly, we must teach Pakistan a lesson. G.V.L. Rao, let me come to you. We've heard lots of people there, of course, and the political establishment has been united in their strong condemnation, Mr. Rao, of this kind of attacks that we've seen, the mutilation of the Indian soldiers. But at the same time, sir, we've also seen many question India's policy as far as Pakistan is concerned. We said that we've seen Sitaram Yechury say that really nobody knows. It's all grey is what he really implied on what India's approach really is. Would you like to respond, sir?
What the nature of response will be, I think one will have to wait and watch. I think these are not the nature of the response will not be really articulated in television debates, nor am I privy to any such details. But I'm sure when you hear that from the armed forces, you certainly cannot. I think any country can take it only. Pakistan, if it chooses to ignore it, may do it at its own peril. Because the nature of acts, the nature of barbaric nature of the act that they have involved in, the despicability of it, I think no professional army will ever do it. I think we have been calling Pakistan's army as a rogue army, but today they seem to be representing a terror outfit more than an army, because an army is expected to be bound by a set of professional standards. But here you have a so-called army, which is also, I think, a coward, having carried out such a despicable act, and they do not have even the gumption to accept it. I think repeated attempts of barbarity like this has certainly shown Pakistan to be a very irresponsible country and an irresponsible rogue army, and this only strengthens our position. And that's precisely the reason why after we carried out the surgical strikes, no nation came forward to even side with Pakistan. Practically every country in the world accepted our position. They said we had the right to really act in self-defense. So I think Pakistan is certainly asking for much more severe response from India by choosing to indulge in such acts repeatedly.
Okay, but KC Singh, if I could get you in here at this stage, there are many who would ask that despite the surgical strike last year on the 29th of September, those like Sitaram Yechury have made the point that why are these acts carrying on, just what's going on? Would you like to take that, sir?
Look, I think we have to realize that you can't just say boo to the Pakistani army and they'll get scared and they'll get deterred. They have a game plan, they'll go according to it. They'll challenge you time and again, and they'll choose their time. Interesting is, why has it happened now? It's not surprising they've done it, because they've been doing it time and again. They've done it during the Kargil war. We found how they dealt with the bodies of people who fell on their side of the border. So this is not surprising. They do it in Baluchistan repeatedly. I was just retweeting pictures of what they do to the Baluchis. So they have a history of doing it. And incidentally, under the Geneva Convention, these constitute as war crimes. And today the war crimes are punishable very seriously before the international criminal tribunals. So one is that. Second is, why now? Normally there is a provocation. We've been seeing for some time that there is a rebalancing between the civilian government and the defense establishment. We've seen they're going after the Dawn newspaper. We've seen the Prime Minister has had to sack an aide. So there is some bickering there. Secondly, don't forget that there was a news item that industrialist Jindal met Nawaz Sharif in Murree a few days ago. And it was speculated he was carrying a message. Now, the minute the army sees that the civilian authority is reaching out, or there may be a reaching out before the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting, that is a good time for them to really spoil the atmosphere.
Okay.
And don't forget, the Turkish president is in town. One last point.
Sure.
Turkish president is in town, and he gave a rather
statement on Kashmir. That's right.
Indifferent interview when he gave his statement on Kashmir. So they are testing that with Erdogan, President Erdogan in India, wanting to intervene in the Kashmir matter when he has enough problems on his own plate, including Kurds and ISIS and whatnot. The Pakistanis are testing it.
Okay. Mr. Rao, would you like to quickly respond to that?
No, about the visit of the Turkish president is still ongoing, so I would not really like to comment on this as such. But certainly, I do agree. But an army indulges in acts like despicable acts like this, there is certainly an attempt to create a provocation. There is certainly an attempt not to normalize things. There is, and there could be a background to the whole thing, as Mr. Singh is saying, but I'm not privy to any details, and I do not therefore wish to indulge in any speculation on this score.
Okay. General J.J. Singh, come in here. The point that KC Singh is raising about the timing. Now, given what's happening in Kashmir, given that the Pakistan Army Chief just yesterday was at the LOC, how much of all of this really, especially the visit of the Army Chief to the LOC, do you believe that that in any way is linked? Should we be joining the dots to that, with that, to what's happening here, sir?
I would like to say that the Army Chief's visit was not directly related to this kind of an action, but he should have advised his soldiers to be good professionals and not to carry out actions which they have done in the past, which has shamed their army. I also feel, let us raise the level a bit in the debate, because we must now talk about the strategic response, and that strategic response must be aimed at the minds and hearts of the Pakistani people. The the ruling elite, the army, ISI, and certain elements of the government want the situation to remain on the boil. And therefore, you look at where Pakistan has gone. They were at one time having the same per capita GDP as India. Today, their GDP is 8 times smaller than us. even Bangladesh is doing better. Bangladeshi rupee is stronger than the Pakistani rupee or Bangladesh taka. So what I'm saying is that we have more options which are strategic, which are not only military but economic, diplomatic and others which we should look at also.
Okay. Tactical, diplomatic, political strategy. Ajay Kumar, come in here. We've seen the opposition united condemnation, of course, coming from all political parties. Many, of course, talking about the government strategy as well, which we'll get Mr. Rao in on that earlier. But there's, of course, a condemnation in Pakistan, as successive governments in India have seen over the last couple of decades, is an entity that our strategy with has to be constantly collaborated. Isn't that true?
Yeah. Nidhi, look, first of all, what Pakistan says, and Ambassador K.C. Singh has very correctly said that it constitutes a war crime. One of the reasons which we are definitely concerned about the government is, and it is important for the government to recognize that there has been, 200% increase in the ceasefire violations. There has been over a doubling of the, if you compare the doubling of the deaths of Jawans. There has been 172 terrorist incidents happening, and the most important part which people forget, that the Indian army is now in Kashmir actually stretched to its limit, because it's used in the internal security, the job which the police is supposed to do, or the paramilitary, the central police organizations are supposed to do, is now being handed over to the army. So the army is actually being grossly stretched, and what has changed, from 2014 to 2017? Look, if the government and politically right, the surgical strike, the government can continue to take, the Prime Minister used it as an election speech, and that is perfectly okay. I mean, that's the way they look at it, if it's a strategic issue. But the question again is, if the present situation has been one of the worst periods, now those are steps. Is there a concrete steps to ensure that? There is a great deal, and Natasha, I'll just finish with it. So the request to the government is that there has been a huge amount of stretch on the army resources. They are actually tied up with a huge amount of intel. So we have, would like the government to respond in a way which is not we are doing the great job, etc., etc.
All right. GVR Rao, would you like to come in? That, in fact, was my question to you earlier. I don't think you could hear me clearly then. I was talking about the government strategy and focus being on the Prime Minister's Pakistan policy. Is it sort of time to take a relook at that, you think? Is that what the thinking is in the government? Go ahead, sir.
No, Natasha, the nature of relations with a country like Pakistan is such that it is something that you have to fashion it according, you have a long-term strategy, but you will have to constantly review it, monitor it, and do what can be done to keep the pressure on your neighbor. But it's not true that situation is what you have today is the worst. Certainly this is not a happy situation. We will have to bring things very much under control. There is a concern, but at the same time things were much worse earlier. I don't want to get into a UPA versus NDA debate, but I have all the numbers to show the situation earlier was far worse. But it doesn't mean that there is a need for us to improve situation. And I think all the trouble that you have in the Kashmir is all engineered by Pakistan. So it's certainly working towards, it's trying to build pressure on us. And we have not allowed to have a dialogue with them, because we have put pressure on Pakistan until you stop terror. We cannot have a dialogue, and the dialogue has to be on terror or not anything else. So you have to, the diplomatic engagement and your military engagement both go hand in hand. So we have been very tough with them on diplomatic front. We have actually isolated them within the region. No, none of the countries in the SAARC region wanted to even visit Islamabad. On surgical strike, no country really accepted the position of Pakistan, and we rallied the whole world behind us. So certainly this diplomatic isolation has certainly put pressure on Pakistan.
Okay, I'm going to get
certainly create trouble for you. We will give it back to them.